When you hear Venezuela, what comes to mind? For many, it's political turmoil and economic hardship. The headlines show a nation in crisis, but that's only part of the story. What if we looked beyond the news? Who were the Venezuelan people and what shaped them? Venezuela's story is a vast novel, not just its latest chapter. Its history is a tapestry woven from indigenous America, colonial Spain, and waves of immigrants. Imagine a land where the Amazon meets the Caribbean, and ancient mountains rise from the jungle. To understand Venezuela, we must travel back, before oil, before Europeans, to the people who first called this land home. Let's uncover the stories that shaped this nation, revealing a richer, more human picture. Long before the first European ships appeared on the horizon, Venezuela was a land alive with the vibrant cultures of its indigenous peoples, Caribs, Arawaks, and Timoto-Cuicas. Each group developed unique societies, with their own languages, beliefs, and ways of life, all deeply rooted in the rhythms of the land and the cycles of nature.
The Timoto-Cuica, for example, were masterful engineers. In the misty Andes, they built terraced fields that hugged the mountainsides, designed sophisticated irrigation systems to nourish their crops, and created pottery adorned with intricate patterns that told stories of their ancestors. Along the winding rivers and sunlit coasts, Arawak and Carib villages flourished, their homes raised on stilts above the water, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of the sea and the forest. These communities were renowned for their independence, their expert navigation of rivers and ocean waves, and their deep knowledge of fishing and trade. They were the original Venezuelans, shaping the land's identity through their customs, their stewardship of the environment, and their sense of community.
Today, their legacy is everywhere, in the faces of their descendants, in the place names that dot the map, like Caracas and Maracaibo, and in beloved foods such as the arepa, a staple that traces its roots to indigenous kitchens and continues to nourish Venezuelan families. But the arrival of Europeans marked a turning point. Disease, conflict, and forced labor swept through these communities, decimating populations and leaving scars that would last for centuries. Yet, despite unimaginable hardship, the spirit of these peoples endures, carried forward by elders who share their wisdom and by children who learn the old ways. In the remote Amazon and the watery labyrinth of the Orinoco Delta, communities like the Yanomami and Warao continue to preserve ancient traditions, languages, and beliefs, living in harmony with the rainforest and river. They are living links to Venezuela's soul, embodying resilience, wisdom, and a profound connection to the land. Their survival is a testament to the enduring strength of culture and community, a reminder that the story of Venezuela begins with them. The very foundations of Venezuela, its names, its foods, its spirit, are deeply, unmistakably indigenous. In 1498, Columbus sailed along Venezuela's coast, calling it the Land of Grace.
Soon after, explorers saw stilt houses on Lake Maracaibo and named the region Venezuela, Little Venice.
The Spanish arrival marked a quest for gold and the start of colonial rule. Unlike the Aztec or Inca, Venezuela's indigenous groups fiercely resisted, leading to decades of conflict and devastation from disease. Spanish towns and plantations rose, worked by enslaved Africans brought across the Atlantic. Their arrival added new rhythms, beliefs, and resistance. The fusion of Spanish, indigenous, and African cultures began here, creating a complex, diverse society. But it was also a society deeply scarred by inequality and injustice. For centuries, Venezuela was a quiet outpost of the vast Spanish Empire, its towns and cities shaped by colonial rule and tradition. Life moved at a gentle pace, with generations living under the distant authority of Spanish kings. But in the late 1700s, the winds of change began to blow. Revolutionary ideas from Europe and North America, liberty, equality, and self-determination, started to reach the shores of Venezuela, inspiring a new generation to imagine a different future. Among the criollos, those born in the Americas of Spanish descent, stood Simón Bolívar, a passionate and restless visionary. Bolívar was deeply influenced by the Enlightenment and the stories of other revolutions. He dreamed not just of independence for his homeland, but of a continent united in freedom. where people could govern themselves and shape their own destinies.
Bolivar's ambition was not just freedom for Venezuela, but the creation of a federation of republics, an alliance of liberated nations that could stand strong against foreign domination. He believed that only unity could secure lasting independence and prosperity for the people of South America. In 1811, inspired by Bolivar and other leaders, Venezuela boldly declared its independence from Spain. This act of defiance sparked a brutal, decade-long war, a struggle marked by sacrifice, shifting fortunes, and the hope of a new nation. Bolivar faced crushing defeats and periods of exile, but he never gave up. In 1819, he led his army on a daring and treacherous crossing of the Andes Mountains, a feat many thought impossible. This legendary journey became a turning point, inspiring his followers and changing the course of the war. The decisive Battle of Carabobo in 1821 secured Venezuela's independence. Bolivar's leadership and determination had finally broken Spanish control, paving the way for a new era. Bolivar's victories freed much of northern South America. For a brief, shining moment, he united these lands as Gran Colombia, a bold experiment in unity and self-rule. Though the union eventually fractured under political pressures, Bolivar's legacy endures. He remains a symbol of freedom, resilience, and the enduring hope for unity in Latin America. Today, he is celebrated as Venezuela's national hero, his image and ideals woven into the fabric of the nation's identity. Bolivar's grand dream still echoes in the nation's soul, inspiring generations to strive for liberty, justice, and unity.
After gaining independence, Venezuela entered a period of uncertainty and hardship. The country was ruled by powerful local leaders known as caudillos, whose personal ambitions often overshadowed the needs of the people. The economy remained fragile and overwhelmingly agricultural, with most Venezuelans living in rural poverty, working the land with simple tools and little hope for change.
Everything changed dramatically in the early 20th century with the discovery of vast oil reserves beneath Venezuelan soil. Suddenly, the country found itself at the center of a global energy revolution, as oil companies rushed in and drilling rigs transformed the landscape. Oil wealth poured into Venezuela, funding ambitious projects, modern highways, gleaming skyscrapers, and the rise of a vibrant middle class. Cities expanded rapidly, and for many, it seemed like a new era of prosperity had arrived almost overnight.
For a time, Venezuela became a beacon of progress in Latin America. Schools and hospitals were built, and the country's cities bustled with life and optimism. The world looked to Venezuela as a model of development fueled by natural resources.
But beneath the surface, the economy grew dangerously dependent on oil. Other sectors like agriculture and manufacturing were neglected as oil became the lifeblood of the nation. The hope was to use oil wealth to diversify and modernize the economy, but instead, agriculture was left behind. Corruption flourished as politicians and elites vied for a share of the oil riches, undermining the country's institutions. The gap between rich and poor widened dramatically. While some enjoyed luxury and privilege, many others remained trapped in poverty, especially in the growing urban slums. The oil boom created an illusion of prosperity. Glittering malls and high-rises masked the fragile foundations of the economy, which depended almost entirely on the price of oil. When oil prices inevitably fell, the illusion shattered. Economic crisis swept the nation, leaving businesses closed, supermarket shelves empty, and millions struggling to get by.
This cycle of boom and bust, driven by oil, shaped Venezuela's politics and society for generations. Each wave of prosperity was followed by hardship, fueling instability and unrest. The promise of oil brought undeniable progress, but it also sowed the seeds of deep-seated problems that would haunt the nation for decades to come. These seeds of dependence, inequality, and corruption would later erupt into the crises we see in Venezuela today, shaping the country's destiny in profound ways. Venezuela's story isn't just indigenous, Spanish, or African, it's also a nation of immigrants.
After World War II, Venezuela welcomed Europeans, Spaniards, Portuguese, Italians, seeking new lives. Their influence is everywhere, from bakeries to city streets. Immigrants became merchants, builders, and artists, enriching Venezuelan society.
Later, people from Colombia, Chile, Argentina, and Peru arrived, fleeing turmoil. Venezuela became a land of refuge and opportunity.
The typical Venezuelan family is a blend of cultures, a true melting pot. This diversity is a source of national pride.
The spirit of inclusion is one of Venezuela's most beautiful, overlooked qualities.
To feel Venezuela's pulse, listen to its music and see its art.
The cuatro, a 4-string guitar, is central to música llanera, folk music of the plains. African heritage lives in the rhythms of tambores, played during festivals. Gaita Zuliana from Zulia blends indigenous Spanish and German influences, especially at Christmas.
Venezuela became a hub for kinetic and optical art, with artists like Cruz Diaz and Soto gaining global acclaim. Their public installations reflect the country's modernist ambitions.
In hard times, music and art become tools of resilience and hope.
Songs, paintings, and dances express protest, nostalgia, and joy.
The creative soul of Venezuela endures even when the headlines are bleak.
Understanding Venezuela's past is key to making sense of its present.
Today's political divides and economic crises have deep historical roots, centuries of inequality, dependence on oil, and cycles of corruption.
The resource curse left the economy fragile, discouraging other industries.
Oil wealth masked but never fixed social disparities.
This history explains the appeal of leaders promising radical change.
Recent turmoil is part of a long struggle over the nation's soul.
Seeing the present through history's lens brings empathy and understanding. Venezuela's challenges are centuries in the making.
So what is Venezuela? Not just a headline, but a land of natural beauty and deep history.
It's the legacy of indigenous engineers, Bolivar's dream, and the story of oil's promise and peril.
It's a nation built by immigrants and a refuge for many.
The soul of Venezuela is in its people's warmth, resilience, and generosity.
This is the Venezuela beyond politics, a nation of complexity and unbreakable spirit.
Every country has struggles, but Venezuela's story is more than its hardships.
To understand it, we must look deeper and listen with compassion.
The final chapter is unwritten, shaped by Venezuelans everywhere.
Our role is not to simplify, but to appreciate the nation's complexity. Venezuela's story is far from over.